The Israeli military has said that 200 of its soldiers have been killed in Gaza since its ground operations began in late October. This comes on a day when close to 200 Palestinians were killed in the last 24 hours alone, and the death toll in Gaza crossed the 25,000 mark. This according to the Palestinian Health Ministry. Meanwhile, the Israeli military has seen its highest single-day death toll since the war began. 21 soldiers were killed when a rocket-propelled grenade hit a tank that was guarding Israeli forces. At the same time, an explosion occurred in two buildings where forces had planted explosives. Earlier, 3 Israeli army officers were also killed during combat operations in southern Gaza. The numbers are mounting, and so is the pressure on Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Relatives of Israelis held hostage in Gaza interrupted a parliamentary meeting demanding the government to take urgent action for their release. The group broke into a meeting of the Knesset's Finance Committee, chanting "Everybody and now" to urge the return of all hostages.
What happened today at the Knesset was an expression of immense sorrow and pain that cannot longer be contained, and we're no longer asking for pity, we're asking for action.
Family members and supporters also protested near Netanyahu's residence in Jerusalem. They spilled blood-red liquid on a road and banged drums. This comes even as European foreign ministers pressed Israel on a two-state solution. At a meeting in Brussels, they criticized Netanyahu's clear rejection of the creation of a Palestinian state. Meanwhile, Britain, Australia and the United States have unveiled new asset freezes and travel bans on Hamas financiers. The US also announced sanctions on Iraqi airline Fly Baghdad, saying it provided assistance to Iran's military wing. Washington says the move is a response to Iran-backed militias' regular strikes against bases housing US forces in Iraq and Syria. Israeli Prime Minister rejected Hamas's conditions for a hostage deal, but diplomats are pushing to resurrect the idea of a two-state solution. Josep Borrell, European Union's foreign policy chief, is now determined to pursue a two-state solution in West Asia. Speaking while at the monthly gathering of EU foreign ministers in Brussels, Borrell said that Israel cannot build peace and can only build military means, and emphasized on the harrowing humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Listen to this.
Certainly, the way of trying to destroy Hamas is not the way they are doing, because they are seeding the hate for generations. We have in mind what Hamas is, what Hamas has done, and certainly we reject and we condemn. But the peace and stability cannot be built only by military means, and not in this particular way of using military means.
But what is the two-state solution, and is it possible? Let's explore this. Now, the two-state solution, it's long been proposed as the best hope for peace in the Israel-Hamas conflict. And if mutually accepted, it would see an independent Palestinian state established alongside the existing one of Israel, giving both countries their own territory. But as the Israel-Hamas war rages on its 109th day, the two-state solution has become the most widely accepted policy internationally. This even as Israelis and Palestinians increasingly see it as an impossibility. But when we look back in history, it seems like Israeli occupation is the key issue that prevents Palestinians from forming their own state. In 1967, Israel took control of the Palestinian territories, which is Gaza, the West Bank and East Jerusalem. Palestinians have ever since lived under military rule. So even if the two-state solution is put in force, the biggest obstacle would be in deciding what the borders of a potential Palestinian state would be. An increasing number of Israeli settlements have been established inside the West Bank. As per international law, these are still considered illegal. So even if the occupation were to end, there is little land on which Palestinians could build a state, because an Israeli settlement movement in the Palestinian territories will involve over 700,000 people, meaning some would have to be resettled in Israeli territory, which Israel is unlikely to tolerate. Israel's assault on Gaza, it's left over 25,000 Palestinians dead, the vast majority women and children, according to the Hamas-run health ministry. Netanyahu has vowed complete victory over Hamas after the October 7th attacks. But the question is, can Hamas be completely eliminated? While some military analysts deny the possibility, others point out that Israel's campaign may degrade the group's capabilities, but defeating its ideology is impossible without a political solution.